If you missed part 1, a new being appeared within the Loveland universe. He is Abram, and he is literally a man-made god. He was granted those powers when he journeyed to the ends of the universe, but he wasn't alone. Valentina Volkov had a hard life growing up in the winter streets of Moscow. At times, she would dig through the trash to eat whatever dead animals she could find. But her life changed the day a man found her, telling her that it's tough to be a little mouse. 8 years later, she found herself on a faraway planet with one other crew member. The cosmonaut's mission: to find the unexplored and investigate it, conquer it, make it become the ultimate victory of socialism over its enemies. And that mission was a complete success, except now their space capsules are broken. There was a third in their crew, Abram Adams, but he had abandoned the team, leaving them to their own devices. The other crew member, Casimir, had suffered injuries as the three landed, and right now, desperation was setting in. Casimir says he saw it. He saw Abram take off his helmet and nothing happened. He left them. Even if they did get back, so much time would have passed that their families would be dead. He then turns to Valentina, asking if she left someone behind. She tells him no. They cannot speak of these things. It is against regulations. Casimir goes on stating that she's the only one that he knows anymore. He loves her. His little Mishka. He says that the necklace that she's wearing, it's beautiful. And he asks where did she get it. Valentina says that she's not sure. She's always had it since she was a child. But as Casimir goes on, he says that all they need to do now is give in to the unknown, just like Abram did. That way, they can go home. After hearing that word, home, Valentina thinks back to the days after she was picked up by the man simply known as the Doctor. While living with him and his wife, she would begin to grow and call him Papa. And one morning he told her that the sun had already risen. The bread line will be hours long. She asked why do they wait in the line? A man of his status, they should be able to get their food without having to wait. And Papa tells her that they must give themselves to the state. The struggle is a shared one. What is heavy for one is made lighter by sharing its burden. So as Valentina leaves for the bread lines, she notices a man selling jewelry on the streets. And she noticed a necklace. She tells him that the necklace is beautiful. And the man says that he remembers her. She is just a little rat. Go on. Get out of here, you thief. Back on the unknown planet, Valentina tells Casimir that she's going to go back out looking for the unknown. This would be her ultimate measure of will. Exposure to the unknown and hostile atmosphere. It most likely would be suicide, but for Valentina, it is simply her duty. As her helmet is pulled away, she breathes in and begins to vomit a glowing substance. Suddenly her eyes begin to glow, and with whatever it was that entered her, whether an alien spore or a virus, it gave her the ability to do things. Things like repair their broken space pod. Her mission would be to return home alive, and if not, then everything would be for nothing. The issue with repairing the space pod, though, is that there would only be room for one, and it still needed a source of energy. So using what source of energy she had, she removed Casimir's helmet to expose him, and used his life force to power the pod. She drank from the same cup as Abram. She had sacrificed everything for the motherland, just as she had been trained, and now, it's time for her return. It's been about 50 years since she left, and on her way back home, she watched the world news, seeing how the world had changed, how the nation that she loved fell apart. It's been generations, and right now, all she can do is watch the changes. But Abram abandoned the mission, and Casimir's mind betrayed the state, even though his body was useful. As she landed in Siberia, 60 years had passed, and the world that she knew came crashing down. Everything had broken, except for her. The soldiers surround the crashed space pod, and Valentina tells them to surrender. As they do not answer and aim their guns at her, she tells them, very well. She waves her hand, removing them. Soon after, Valentina steps into an office. An officer helped Comrade Putin. He tells her that they have been waiting a long time and would very much like her help. 30 days pass, and suddenly Russia has now emerged as a lone superpower, and MI6 has been sent in to find out why. Russia has been manipulating markets and crashing the economies of their enemies, and as Agent L breaks into the central bank of Russia, he sees the answer. There is more gold here than could possibly be in the entire world, enough that if word of it got out, the global economy would collapse. But as L looks around, Valentina appears behind him. He goes silent, and Agent K asks what's going on, and then the vault door suddenly bursts open. Elle runs through and Kay tells him that he's already called for an extraction, just keep running. Elle continues to sprint and Valentina flies behind him asking if he really thought that she would notice. She then holds out her arm, blowing Elle away, and then she asks if he thought that she didn't realize that there was more than one. As Kay's report goes on, she mentions that she was like him, like Divinity, but slightly different. All that could be seen was raw power, fueled by anger. By the time Kay got to the extraction point, he could hardly remember Ninja L's name, and soon he forgot all of him, like he never existed. She wiped away his very existence from the world. Kay says this woman has the same power as the one that they call, codename, Divinity, but with no inhibitions. Livewire suggests that her and Auric go to contain her since they both managed to take down the last one. Neville tells them to just stop for a second. They can't go in. She's on Russian soil, which is why they already sent in Ninja K, Ninjak, undercover. Just going in would start World War III. Auric then says that perhaps they should fight sword with sword. Maybe they can convince their Divinity. Neville says that they really can't. He's being held in a $1 billion facility under lock and key. And then Abram's voice tells them that he will help, as this was his fault. Everyone turns around to see Abram standing there, and he tells them he was not thinking clearly then, but he will confront Valentina and put things right. Neville says that he's surprised that he escaped his cell, and Abram tells him that he lives in the cell voluntarily. It's comforting. Neville tells him that there needs to be some rules. They have to just put things back to normal, so no reality manipulation. Abram looks at him and asks, "How would you know if I did?" He then sets out for Russia, and he's met with a squad of tanks. He pays them no mind, and he flies by, destroying them. A short while later, he reaches where Valentina is staying, continuing to dismantle everything in his path. She asks if he remembers her. Does he remember betraying his comrades and leaving them to die at the edge of the universe? And Abram tells her that he's sorry, and he places his hands on her head. She tells him to go ahead and take a look, see what she has planned for him, and know that he will be powerless to stop it. Valentina then grabs his head, and visions of bloodshots, war, destruction, all flash before Abram's eyes. Valentina says that he didn't just abandon them, he abandoned the mission, and she slams his head into the ground and tells him, he abandoned the motherland! As the force of Abram hits the ground, Valentina pushes further, dragging his body down into the center of the earth. She shouts for him to tell her why he came back, and images appear around the two of them, and Abram says that he was weak. When he returned, he had risen his wife and child from the grave, and then he had learned that he had to let them go. He will stay here and he will end this. He will not let the world be changed. Valentina reaches out, touching Abram, telling him that perhaps he's right. This is the end, and Abram's body begins to break down and wither away. Moscow, 1939. Joseph Stalin wakes up to the sound of Valentina's voice as he asks, who's there? And she tells him that she is not important. What is important is that he does not sign the treaty with Germany. Instead, they will grind Germany underneath their boots. Back in the present day, Abram tells Valentina that she cannot change the past. She may have talked to Stalin, but she cannot fight his wars. The Soviet Union is gone, and there is nothing that she can do to bring it back. The power that she has is finite, as it is over him. Valentina charges back through time, telling him that it is his lack of ambition in her that is going to kill him. As Valentina chases Abram through time, she tells him that his fear will be his undoing, and Abram says that he does not run from fear, but he would like to show her something. As the two step into Moscow in the past, he says that he is the only person on Earth who understands what she went through, the only one who knows what she needs. They then walk through the breadline in Moscow, and Valentina asks, why did he take her here? Valentina watches as Abram kneels down to talk to her younger self. She runs and tackles Abram, stating, how dare you? You have no right to come back to her childhood. And then she tells him that he isn't the only one who can violate someone's mind, and runs off. 1941. Valentina looks down at a baby Abram, stating that she could end it all right here. And as she reaches down into the basket, the handle snaps off. Abram says that she cannot kill him. Their power over time does have laws that are incorporated into it. They see things like a book, with all of the pages existing simultaneously, but only one page can be read at a time. The urge to change things is natural, but the words are already printed, so the only thing that they can do is underline those words and slightly alter something. Valentina shouts that that cannot be, they can do anything! And next she heads to 1986, attempting to influence another movement, but Abram in the present tells her that it's like trying to use a feather to change the course of a train. As Valentina continues to hop through time, Abram tells her that it's useless. The past is not the enemy, nor is he. Valentina punches Abram to 1953, telling him that she knows his weakness. She will take away his memories, and he tries to tell her that she cannot get rid of who a person is. She gets up punching again, and then she begins to drain Abram a second time, but now the world begins to crumble around them. She then says that there was a fairy tale that she loved as a child. It was about a boy named Ivan. Ivan's father had a nightingale that was caged in their house. The nightingale would sing, and everyone loved to listen to it. But Ivan wanted to understand what the bird was singing. So one day, Ivan was in the woods and he found 4 small birds that had fallen from their nest. He waited and protected the birds until the mother returned, and as she did, the mother bird was so grateful that she offered Ivan one wish. His wish was to understand the meaning of the bird's song, but as he returned home to listen, he later found crying in his room. In the present Manhattan, Valentina begins to work away in an ATM, and Abram asks what she is doing. She tells him that she is shifting the wealth in the world, making it so everyone will wake up as equals. She then goes on with a story stating that the reason that Ivan was crying is because the song always says that he will one day be a king, and how everyone will love him, and everyone in the kingdom will kneel to him in fear. Abram tells Valentina that she must stop this. Anything she changes, he can and he will change back. And as the light begins to glow in her eyes, Valentina says that he doesn't know her and punches him away. The force throws Abram into the wall of a building, and Abram says that they really can't hurt each other. She should know that by now. He then fires a blast, knocking away part of Valentina's armor, and she rushes back in to counter. As he jumps over her advance, he tells her to think, remember the past, remember the necklace. She thinks back to the merchant who told her to go away, and then tells Abram that he should realize that no one tells her to go away now. She blasts off of Abram, knocking him through building after building, and Abram tells her that he's just trying to make her remember. As the two struggle to fight, slowly, Valentina begins to remember something different. When she was a child, she said the merchant, he showed her kindness. He gave her the necklace. Suddenly, Valentina stops fighting and says that small kindness meant everything. Abram takes Valentina by the hand and tells her that he wants to show her something, and the two go to 1912 to the Brusilov expedition. Abram explains that the crew was sent out to explore the Arctic but never returned. That was them exploring the unknown. Valentina says that she's afraid, that they never came back. Did they in fact die out there? Are they even human anymore? Abram tells her that they are a collection of memories and experiences. They are just themselves. And Valentina asks, what do they do now? So Abram tells her that he will ask her a question, something that she's probably not been asked. What would she like to do? A little while later, Valentina begins planting for her crop fields, and a voice tells her that they haven't seen anything grow here, too much clay in the soil. She turns back to see an old farmer, but as he watches, he tells her that if she does grow something, he will buy a share of it. The farmer then tells her best of luck and heads off, and Valentina goes back to planting. Another voice then speaks up, asking if she forgot about her comrade, Casimir. Meanwhile, Abram returns to his cell, thinking back to Valentina's childhood. As she walked the streets, she stopped by the merchant, but this time, it was Abram, and he is the only one who holds out the necklace, telling her to take it. With a tear in her eye, she tells him thank you. The story of Divinity is one of my favorite Valiant storylines. It's a completely new concept and idea, and something we don't typically see in superhero-based comic books, gods going at it. But the story of Divinity is not stopping here. It is a trilogy. So, what's gonna happen in Divinity 3? What's gonna happen in the Stalinverse when Russia has finally won? You can check that out yourself right now, or you can wait patiently for us to cover the story. Either way, I recommend you subscribe to Comicstorian so you can stay up to date on your favorite comic books and mine as well. And we can talk about your favorite books on Twitter and Instagram @Comicstorian.